2025 edition of the AK Sen Memorial Lecture. May I request the Chief Guest, Honorable Mr. Justice Vikram Nath, Judge, Supreme Court of India, Honorable Mr. Justice Joy Malobakshi, Judge, Supreme Court of India, Honorable Mr. Justice Sachin Datta, Judge, Delhi High Court, Mr. Joyanto Kumar Mitra, Senior Advocate and former Advocate General of West Bengal, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Member of Parliament and Senior Advocate, and Mr. Sanjeev Sen to kindly come to the dais. May I request the Honorable Chief Guest and the Honorable dignitaries to light the lamp.
Honorable Chief Justice Delhi
I would request the Honorable Chief Justice of the High Court of Delhi to kindly come to the dais. I would request Mr. Vikas Singh, President, Supreme Court Bar Association, to come to the dais. I would also request the Honorable Attorney General, Mr. Venkat Ramani, to come to the dais. Now I would request Justice Moushumi Bhattacharya, Judge, High Court of Telangana, to kindly approach the dais. And Justice Lopita Banerjee, Judge, High Court of Punjab and Haryana, to grace the dais. May I request Mr. Jitendra Mohan Sharma, Senior Advocate, to kindly give the welcome address.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Justice Vikram Nath, Judge, Supreme Court of India, Justice Joy Malobakshi, Judge, Supreme Court of India, Justice D.K. Upadhyay, Chief Justice, Delhi High Court, Justice Sandeep Datta, Sachin Datta, Judge High Court, judges of High Court, Shri Jayant Mitra, senior advocate and a former Advocate General for West Bengal, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, MP, Rajya Sabha and and senior advocate, Sanjeev Sen, students from law colleges, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of A.K. Sen Memorial Foundation, I welcome you all to this A.K. Sen Memorial Lecture 2025. Last year, the inaugural session of A.K. Sen Memorial was delivered by Justice Suryakant to a full house, and I am glad to say that tonight as well we have a packed hall. The inaugural edition set a remarkable precedent by honoring late Shri A.K. Sen's towering legacy. Friends, lectures such as these remind us that law is not static. Rather, it evolves through constant conversations and scholarships. By bringing together judges, lawyers, and the students of law, we celebrate not only the memory of a great man, but also the enduring idea that justice thrives when knowledge is shared. We are gathered here to remember Mr. Ashok Kumar Sen, popularly known as Mr. A.K. Sen, one of the independent India's most distinguished jurists and parliamentarian. A brilliant lawyer by training, he became the country's long-serving union law minister, serving from a Nehru era through the Rajiv Gandhi tenure, and left an extraordinary imprint on India's legal and parliamentary landscape. Beyond politics, he was a leader of the bar, a former president of Supreme Court Bar Association, and lived a life of devotion to law, public service, and institution building. Today, as we honor his memory, let us recall not only his legal acumen, but his steadfast belief that strong institutions and fearless lawyering are the foundations of a healthy democracy. The concept of this having a lecture and remembering A.K. Sen was over a cup of tea, and with our convener, Mr. Santan and Sanjeev Sen, in a canteen, we just thought of it that A.K. Sen is one of the most towering figure, and there must be a remembrance. And because of that, last year we started with it. It is today my honor to welcome our chief guest this evening, Honorable Justice Vikram Nath. Justice Nath began his legal journey in the state of UP in 87, practicing at Allahabad High Court, and he earned a well-deserved reputation for his sharp legal acumen through consistent hard work. His judicial career equally being distinguished from his elevation to Allahabad High Court in 2004 to taking over as the 26th Chief Justice to the Gujarat High Court until his elevation to Supreme Court in 2021, where he will adorn the office of Chief Justice next year. On the bench, Lordship is deeply devoted to the cause of justice. While being most courteous in court, we are deeply privileged and grateful to have Justice Nath with us this evening, and we thank him most sincerely for gracing this occasion. His presence adds immense stature to this gathering, and I'm certain we will leave this hall inspired. Thank you, Justice Vikram Nath. It is also my honor today. It is also my honor to welcome His Lordship Justice Joy Malobakshi. His Lordship began his legal journey in 1991 as an advocate in Calcutta High Court, specializing in criminal and constitutional law. His Lordship was elevated as a judge to Calcutta High Court in 2011 and was appointed as a judge of Supreme Court in March this year. His Lordship's profound knowledge of law and clarity of thought is an inspiration for all in court. I thank him immensely for honoring us all with his presence here today. I welcome our next guest, Mr. Jayant Mitra, senior advocate, who is a man of intellect, dignity, and quiet conviction. He was designated as senior advocate in 87 and later served as an advocate general for the state of West Bengal. Mr. Mitra is known for his expertise in constitution and commercial law. To colleagues and junior alike, he symbolizes the old world grace of the profession, considerate in manners but fearless in opinion. Our next guest, Mr. Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, is among India's foremost jurists of the day. He is a scholar, parliamentarian, and a senior advocate, whose intellect and eloquence have shaped both courtroom discourse and public debate. Among the youngest ever to be designated as a senior advocate, Dr. Singhvi embodies the fusion of academic brilliance and practical statesmanship. Thank you, Dr. Singhvi, for joining us today. With this, now I invite my colleague Sanjeev Sen to formally go with the commence today's session and go for an interactive session. Sanjeev.
Welcome, everybody. You see, just yesterday I was sitting in the canteen of the Supreme Court with some friends when Mr. Kapil Sibal walked in and joined us. And we were discussing all the stalwarts of the bar since independence, right from Mr. Setalwad, Mr. Daftari, etc. And finally we asked him a question that, to your mind, you've seen them all, who would you rate as the best and the finest lawyer of all time? So without batting an eyelid, Mr. Sibal said, it has to be A.K. Sen. Similarly, about last week, I was speaking to my friend Mr. Subhash Sharma, a very close confidant of the great Fali Nariman. It appears that Mr. Fali Nariman also held the same view, and he felt that A.K. Sen was the finest lawyer ever to have walked down the corridors of the Supreme Court. But you see, there are lakhs and lakhs of law students, junior lawyers, who don't know much, if not anything about him at all. And so, therefore, I would, in fact, request and start this session by introducing a little more our first speaker of the day, Justice Joy Malobakshi. Justice Bakshi brings to the bench an exceptional combination of intellectual depth, progressive vision, and an unwavering commitment to justice. Prior to his elevation to the Supreme Court, Justice Bakshi distinguished himself at the Calcutta and Andhra Pradesh High Courts, where his judgments reflected what Justice Holmes once called the life of the law, not logic, but experience. His work has always been marked by a fine balance between legal precision and humane understanding. Beyond the courtroom, Justice Bakshi has been instrumental in strengthening India's legal institutions. As Executive Chairman of the Andhra Pradesh State Legal Services Authority, Chairperson of the West Bengal Judicial Academy, and member of the National Court Management Systems Committee, he helped shape the national framework for the court excellence, a vital steps towards building a more responsive and a transparent judiciary. Justice Bakshi brings together a strong academic inclination with extensive professional experience. He has served as a guest lecturer at NUJS, etc., authored numerous articles, and built a distinguished legal career spanning many years with particular expertise in criminal law. Justice Bakshi's distinguished career finds a natural resonance with the legacy of Ashok Kumar Sen. Where Sen sought to give the legal profession voice, structure, national purpose, Justice Bakshi carries forward that mission by deepening access to justice, strengthening court systems, and advancing legal education and reforms. As Mr. Sen famously believed, law at its best is a tool for building society. Justice Bakshi exemplifies that spirit in both thought and action. With that, it is my honor to now invite Honorable Mr. Justice Joy Malobakshi to share his reflections and open the floor for what I am certain will be an engaging and an enlightening discussion. Justice Bakshi.
Sanjeev, and good evening to all. I don't know whether what to say to be compared with a stalwart and a doyen like Mr. Ashok Kumar Sen, and to open the inning and speak about Mr. Sen, where I have Joyantoda here and Mr. Singhvi and definitely Justice Nath, who have more experience about working with Mr. Sen than me. But still then I'll try to make the best of it. Mr. Ashok Sen is not only a doyen of law, but one who straddles the idea of law and politics with equal ease. It is essential to bear in mind that lawyers are the best social engineers. And the presence of lawyers as parliamentarians, though dwindling with more representation from various areas and walks of life, is something which needs to be considered and noted. The first parliament boasted of almost more than 50% lawyers. Today, I don't think we have more than 10 or 15% who are practicing law. I don't talk of persons only having a law graduate degree. Mr. Sen, in that regard, can be considered to be one of these glowing lights of Bengal Renaissance. He portrays what I would say is the wonderful legacy which begins with the likes of Surendranath Banerjee, C.R. Das, N.C. Chatterjee, S.P. Mukherjee, Shamaprasad Mukherjee, and the like. Personally speaking, I didn't have much occasion of interacting with Mr. Sen. I started my career as a lawyer in 1991, and unfortunately, Mr. Sen passed away in 1996. But I had occasion of assisting him as one of the pioneers juniors in a matter which was moved in the vacation bench of the Calcutta High Court in 1992. And mind you, Mr. Sen at that time was in the ripe old age of around 77, 78. Why I remember this case is not because of his eloquence, not because of the complexities of law which with ease he used to pierce, but his professional commitment and dedication, which amazed a young lawyer like me. It was a day when there was a wildcat strike in Calcutta. The solicitor had briefed a host of seniors, the senior-most and the leader being Mr. Sen. I was the pioneerist, as I said, and so, being most grateful to the solicitor, I was even before him in the court. But by the time the solicitor came and the judges were about to assemble, it was very clear that none of the seniors would arrive. And it was an important case. The litigant was pacing up and down the corridor, waiting for the seniors to come and move the matter. We were told that because of the strike and the procession moving, and if some of you definitely have the ideas of the Calcutta topography, the Calcutta High Court is on the banks of the Ganges, and you have the Maidan thereafter and the main city. So there was a procession going through the Maidan. So all the traffic was stopped on the other end of the Maidan, and nobody could reach the High Court. So it was almost catastrophic for the solicitor, who was about to have a cardiac arrest. And because he had no faith in me. So he said that you please take an adjournment, let at least some senior of worth come. So we all waited, nobody came, and one after another the matters were being called, and our blood pressures were rising. Then suddenly Mr. Sen's clerk came and whispered something into the solicitor's ears, and I found that he puckered up. He sort of glowed up like an electric bulb. So I asked him, "Sir, what is it?" He said, "No, Mr. Sen will come." I said, "How? All the cars are stopped. We were told Mr. Sen is just near Fleury's, that's the confectionery on the Park Street, and his car is absolutely chock-a-block. It can't move." He said, "Mr. Sen has got down from the car and has started walking." Friends, I was amazed. a man who didn't need to prove anything to anyone, at the ripe old age of 77, 78, walked all the way to the High Court, and thankfully, the matter was taken up. With the able guidance of Mr. Sen, we obtained an injunction. This is something which I felt I will share with all of you, and particularly the students and the young friends here, that it's not the professional success in material terms which you will find to be told about Mr. Sen in various other anecdotes, but the core commitment of a professional. And that is what separates the men from the also ran. Another story which I shared with Sanjeev when Sanjeev invited me for this program. I said, I don't know much of Mr. Sen, but I can share one story which I have just narrated. And the other I take from the autobiography written by his father-in-law, Justice S.R. Das. Justice S.R. Das, incidentally, has written an autobiography which is not much circulated. It's in Bengali. I request Shunjib, if it is possible, can be translated into English. Mr. Sen happened to be a junior in Mr. Das's chamber, Justice Das's chamber. Justice Das had been elevated as a judge, and Mr. Sen had a crush for his daughter Anjuna. And as a professional and wonderful lawyer, he used his lawyering skills, which he had subsequently done to win so many cases, to win the heart of the father of the lady love. It's narrated in Das's autobiography that a couple of weeks after he's been elevated to the bench, this young boy, Ashok, who had devilled under him, was appearing. He was led by a senior. Initially, there was some deliberation as to whether the matter would be adjourned, but Mr. Sen was very eager to argue the matter on his own. And with much vehemence, he argued the matter before Justice Das, and with such felicity that Justice Das was terribly impressed. He praised Ashok Sen profusely and said, "You have a wonderful career at the bar." 2 days later, he receives a little chit saying that this young lawyer, Mr. Sen, would like to meet him in his chamber. He waited, but Mr. Sen didn't come. Couple of days later, another young and a very bright barrister who later on became a judge of the Supreme Court, Shubhimal Rai, came over to Justice Das's chamber and said that, "Sir, I have come not for me, but for someone who is too shy to come over and approach and talk with you." Justice Das couldn't understand. He said, "What? And about what do you want to talk?" He said, "I've come to talk about Ashok." He said, "Yeah, he's a bright lawyer. And he argued this particular case wonderfully before me a couple of days ago, but he wanted to meet me, but then he didn't come." He said, "He is too shy to come. If I could, on his behalf, say something." And it was Mr. Shubhimal Rai who made the proposition, which finally resulted in a wonderful union between the two. These are the two anecdotes, friends, I would love to share this evening about this giant of a man and a jurist par excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Bakshi, for those deeply insightful reflections. I mean, these are stories, anecdotes that everybody needs to know and will be inspired by. And now we move on to our next speaker. It is only fitting that while we are remembering probably the greatest lawyer of all times the next speaker is certainly the superstar of our times. So on that note, we move on to the next panelist, another distinguished figure. whose career exemplifies excellence across law, public life, and academia, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, an eminent jurist, a fourth-term member of parliament, and one of India's most versatile public intellectuals, stands as a rare bridge between the courtroom and the corridors of power. Dr. Singhvi's multifaceted career spans the worlds of law, politics, media, and education. At the bar, Dr. Singhvi ranks amongst India's foremost senior advocates. Designated as a senior advocate of the Supreme Court at a remarkably young age of 34 and appointed Additional Solicitor General at 37, he remains one of the youngest in India's legal history to hold these offices. Over 4 decades of practice, he has appeared in some of the most consequential constitutional corporate arbitration cases, each marked by his characteristic lucidity and balance. His education mirrors this breadth. A graduate of St. Stephen's College, a PhD from Trinity College, Cambridge, under Sir William Wade, and with further study at Harvard, Dr. Singhvi combines global academic excellence with deep Indian grounding. Much like Mr. A.K. Sen, whose life and legacy we honor today, Dr. Singhvi embodies the ideal of lawyer-statesman, combining the intellectual rigor with a profound sense of public duty. Their connection is not merely philosophical, but also historical. Dr. Singhvi's father, Dr. L.M. Singhvi, India's former High Commissioner to the UK and a distinguished jurist himself, worked closely with Mr. Sen during his formative years of India's post-independence legal framework. As one eminent jurist once described Dr. Singhvi, he is that rare mind where reasons meet rhetoric and conviction meets civility. With that, it is my privilege to invite Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi to share his reflection on Mr. Ashok K. Sen.
Honorable Justice. Honorable Justice Vikram Nath, Honorable Justice Bakshi, my dear old friend, Mr. Mitra, a generation apart but an old friend, whose son-in-law I met afterwards. Sanjeev, distinguished sitting judges of the Supreme Court and the High Courts, not only Delhi, but elsewhere, including travelers of the High Court from Bengal to Andhra Pradesh, former judges of the Supreme Court, former judges of the High Court, distinguished members of this very distinguished legal fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. You know, there's very little which can make a lawyer, a spokesperson, a politician speechless. Sanjeev Sen was hatching a conspiracy to deliberately make me speechless. And it's not fair, having invited me. But having said that, I must repeat my oft-quoted favorite anecdote about a bishop who likewise invited a speaker, as Sanjeev has me. And he introduced, as Sanjeev has, his speaker in very glowing terms. Undeserved, but very glowing terms. When it came to the turn of the speaker, as it has come to my turn now to speak, the speaker began with 2 forgivenesses. He said, I must first seek forgiveness for Sanjeev Sen for clearly having exceeded the bounds of truth. But then he said, I must seek forgiveness for myself as well for having enjoyed it so much. Justice Nath will do the heavy lifting shortly in the memorial lecture. We have got away with some anecdotal accounts. And since Ashok Sen was 20 years older than my father, and I am 28 years younger than my father, so there was a gap of 48 years. So it was beyond generations. But I knew him surprisingly well because of his connections with my father. So what I will do is, I will relate to you some of the anecdotes about the 2 of them, and even more importantly about the era in which they lived. And that's what I really miss. That era, that time period in our professions is something very interesting. Now everybody knows that He was India's longest serving law minister. He spanned generations of prime ministers from Nehru to Rajiv Gandhi. He came from a distinguished family, a very distinguished family. Sukumar Sen was the first CEC, and his nephew is Amartya Sen. Lesser people know that he spent 35 long years in Parliament, 6 of them in the Rajya Sabha. And he actually, and he told me this himself towards the end of his life, that he was always interested in academics, because I had started being an academic when I was doing my PhD. So he said that I published my first book on commercial law at the age of 26. And he was teaching when he had started practice for some time. But soon, the exigencies of law made him the top lawyer in the Calcutta High Court and the Supreme Court for decades. But as I said, let me recount to you 4 or 5 anecdotes, not about only the man and his connection with my father, from whom I learned some of this, but also about the era and the times they lived in. The first relates to 1963, when in Parliament as law minister, it was now at that time common knowledge, many of you may not know it, even perhaps Justice Vikram Nath and Justice Bakshi may not know it. Ashok Sen by then had wanted the offices of the law minister and attorney general to be combined. There was a phase in his life when he was very keen that both the offices should be combined. So a debate happened in the Lok Sabha, where my father was a 30-year-old member of Parliament. In 62 he was elected. Where Ashok Sen, where it was quoted that the Law Ministry spokesperson on 3rd of January 1963 said, official spokesperson said officially, that look, the Law Minister advised the Cabinet on 24,250 cases in 1960. The Attorney General, who at that time was the very witty Mr. C.K. Daftari, that statesman of the press said, he advised only in 34, as against 24,250. In 61, that figure was 20,000 by the Law Minister and 20 by the Attorney General. And in 62, it was 19,181 by the Law Minister and 11 by the AG. It didn't say more, it stopped there, but that was a clear indication. It was also added in that statement that the Attorney General should not be allowed any private practice. I'm sorry I didn't take the name of the Attorney General here. I'm very sorry, I completely missed you, but I should have said Attorney General for India. He doesn't do any private practice anyway. So this was the statement. This came up in Parliament. My father vigorously opposed the stand of the Law Minister and a Law Ministry whose spokesperson has said this, and he said this is a great attack and assault on the independence, etc., and the two offices should be separate. He was pretty trenchant in his criticism of Ashok Sen. In 62, when my father, nobody expected him to win in Lok Sabha, he won. And when nobody expected him to lose, he lost in 67. So this is the truth. In 67, he had 1 lakh rupees in his bank balance because he was a serious parliamentarian, unlike some of us. And he hardly practiced law from 62 to 67. And he started serious practice only after 67. The most important consideration in our family at that time was to retain the house for some time till you could get a proper house. We were living in 20 Mahadev Road. Suddenly, out of the blue in 67, there was a notification by the Law Minister, Mr. Ashok Sen, appointing a high-powered committee under the chairmanship of Dr. L.M. Singhvi. He never asked him, he never telephoned him. Later on, much later, he told my father, he said, I know you'll make it good in the profession and you needed a bridging gap. And this is anyway an important issue to be decided. So I thought I'll appoint you a committee. They had not been close before that, and he had in fact spoken against him. But thereafter, they fought 6 elections of the SCBA together, against each other. 6 elections. My father won 4, Ashok Sen won 2. But they would always stand at the edge of the corridor, where if you go on one side you had the canteen and the other side you have now the consultation rooms. They would stand together. It was a smaller bar then. People would walk up to them, say hello to both of them, and then each would go and vote for one or the other. Within hours, the first call would be LM, congratulations, Ashok, congratulations. And this is the truth, he swore to my father that he always voted for him. He actually swore. I'm telling you an era, a period which I've seen with my own eyes. Ashok Das' passions in life, possibly in that order, were power. He was very fond of political power, deservedly so. Followed by law and followed by Singhara, the Bengali name for samosa. So Kajal Di, who's his wife, good friend of my mother's, would telephone my mother and say that in the SCBA meetings, even till today, Vikas will bear it out, samosas are served regularly. So when he would be the president, frequently Ashok Sen was the executive member, senior member, or vice versa. So when Ashok Sen was presiding, and my father was the executive committee member, he would raise the topic on some other topic, and then slowly say, LM, just move that little bit here, move that here. Kajal Di would telephone my mother to say that you must instruct your husband to ensure that no plate of samosa reaches him. Bhaumik would hover in the background, but he would not be very interventionist, but my father made sure that he removed the samosa plate to a very safe distance. I think about 6 months or a year before his death, I don't remember, I had become a young senior, and there was a joint conference organized in a Shawwallace matter, where he was to appear in the Chief's Court in Delhi High Court. And I obviously went to his house. He was not very well, and he used to have a leg massage done with oil. His blood circulation was also a little poor. We had a conference. In the middle of that, he said, Abhishek, you look up that Privy Council on this point. He didn't remember many of the recent cases, but he remembered the old ones. After the conference, I looked it up. It was bang on the point. So I asked him later, I said, how on earth do you think of this? So he said, look, right through my law ministership, I never stopped subscribing to the law library. And I would actually, people do not believe it, when I had time, read the law reports. Because he was absent from the law for many decades. And that's why he had also the best library in the country, and also a great memory to pinpoint the old cases. Friends, it's always important to be candid. Bhaumik was his pillar, but he was also his nemesis. Later years, Bhaumik brought him disrepute. It is not entirely untrue that because of Bhaumik, in his later years, at the last minute from the parking lot, he would be diverted from court X to court Y, underprepared and for a higher fee. But that, I can tell you, is largely Bhaumik. Ashok Sen was an intuitive lawyer. If he was asleep, unattentive, and you suddenly woke him up and asked him a question, intuitively he'd give the correct conceptual answer. His fundamentals of the law was so good and so intuitive. A lot of the things we today treat as common, a lot of the seminal principles of jurisprudence we treat as common, it was Ashok Sen who established them as a leading lawyer. Prithvi Cotton Mills, which establishes how there cannot be a legislative nullification of a judgment, but that the legislature must strive to remove the basis of the judgment, was largely in the Constitution bench argued by Ashok Sen. Krepak was path-breaking. Krepak was the Ridge and Baldwin of India, where all this distinction, nowadays it's common, the quasi-judicial, administrative, cobwebs about natural justice were removed, all Ashok Sen in 1970. Royappa, it is difficult to imagine that till 1974 Royappa, Article 14 was largely anti-arbitrariness. I'm sorry, anti-discrimination. Anti-discrimination. There was no anti-arbitrariness in 14. Justice Bhagwati developed it with Ashok Sen's assistance. And Royappa was the main judgment which became the basis for the Ajay Hasyas, the Maneka Gandhis, the Ramanna Shettis. Article 14, anti-arbitrary concept. Of course, as a footnote, Justice Bhagwati practiced very often, Operation Successful, patient died. In Ramanna and in Royappa, the poor fellow lost the case, but the law went to the stratosphere. The law was great, but the petitioner lost. Ashok Sen was, with my father, the two appellants arguing Sibia, the locus classicus on anticipatory bail. Even today, the Constitution Bench, speaking to Justice Chandrachud, it remains. He established law even as a litigant. He challenged a reopening of his tax assessment as Ashok Sen versus Union of India. And the law laid down is quite good, quite seminal in those days on reason to believe. That was Ashok Sen's personal case. He was there in Sanjeev Coke. It's an anchor case on the directive principles issue, on Indian Express, on 191A, and then on the principle that you will not interfere in elections by interim orders. The major case was argued by him, Usman, in 1985, which, perhaps Justice Bakshi knows, led to an enduring friction between Justice D.A. Desai and Justice Sabyasachi Mukherjee. A very enduring and long one. As Justice Dipankar Datta recently put it, you had Palkiwala in the west and you had Ashok Sen in the east. Another wag put it that the 1960s law reports are replete with B Sen, the 70s and 80s with A Sen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Singhvi, for those profoundly insightful and wide-ranging reflections. As we reflect on these themes, it is only fitting that we now turn to a stalwart and a doyen of the Calcutta Bar, a figure whose life and career exemplify the enduring traditions of excellence and integrity in the legal profession. It is my privilege and pleasure to introduce Mr. Jayanta Kumar Mitra, the Senior Advocate of Calcutta High Court and former Advocate General of State of West Bengal, a doyen of the Calcutta Bar and one of the modern-day greats of our legal fraternity. Mr. Mitra's association with the law spans over 6 decades, 60 remarkable years of distinguished practice with nearly 4 decades as a designated senior advocate. Educated at Presidency College, the London School of Economics and the University of London, and called to the bar by the Middle Temple in 1963, Mr. Mitra represents the rare blend of deep academic grounding and practical excellence that marks the finest traditions of the bar. In public service, Mr. Mitra served as the Advocate General of West Bengal, a role he carried out with integrity and independence, never hesitating to uphold the primacy of conscience over convenience. When he chose to resign from that high office, he did so with charismatic clarity of principle, remarking, "I could not have compromised with my conscience. I have to answer to myself, and I have to do this through the law." Those simple yet powerful words have since become emblematic of what every lawyer and public servant strives for, a steadfast fidelity to one's inner compass. Across decades, his counsel has been sought by governments, institutions, generations of lawyers who continue to regard him not only as an authority in law, but as a moral compass for the profession. To the younger member of the bar, he stands as a living reminder that true advocacy lies not merely in winning cases, but in upholding the enduring majesty of the law itself. Perhaps most meaningfully today, Mr. Mitra occupies a uniquely privileged position in this room. He knew Mr. Ashok Sen not merely as India's longest service law minister or a towering legal luminary, but as a mentor, colleague, and a friend. Having worked closely alongside with him in numerous matters before the Calcutta High Court and the Supreme Court of India, Mr. Mitra brings to us a deeply personal perspective, one which reveals that human warmth, intellect, and vision that animated Mr. Sen's extraordinary life. With that, it is my honor to invite Mr. Jayanta Kumar Mitra to share his reflections and memories of Mr. Ashok Sen, whose figure and life continue to inspire generations of lawyers and public servants alike. Mr. Mitra.
My Lord Mr. Justice Vikram Nath, my Lord Mr. Justice Joy Malobakshi, the learned judges of the Supreme Court, the learned retired judges of the Supreme Court, the learned judges of the High Court of Telangana and of Punjab and Haryana, all who are present here, my friends, colleagues, and young friends who are all present to listen to all of us. I was asked to speak sitting. For two reasons, I didn't. Number one, I'm used to address the court standing. And number two, and which is very important, when the judges are sitting, the counsel cannot sit and address. Now, my connection with Mr. Ashok Sen had been sporadic, I must frankly confess. The reason being that Mr. Sen had been moving in and out of the profession throughout his life. A person who had been the longest member of the parliament and had adorned the cabinet of 7 prime ministers of India, you don't expect him to be confined to the precincts of the courts, either High Court or the Supreme Court, all the time. So my connection with him is whenever he used to come to the profession. Now I remember the first time that I saw Mr. Sen was in connection with a case which was being heard in Calcutta High Court. I was then, I think, 3 or 4 years young in the profession, almost a toddler in the profession, moving from court to court, listening to the greats like Ashok Sen, Shankardas Banerjee, Shubhimal Roy. Now, this particular matter happened to be before the full bench of the Calcutta High Court, with 5 judges sitting, hearing Ghirao matter. Perhaps you will recall that in the 1960s, when CPM government was there in Calcutta High Court, in West Bengal, in Calcutta High Court, this Ghirao matter came up because there had been a number of incidents when the workers and the employees and the staff, for the purpose of enforcement of their right, they used to, so to say, Ghirao the executives and keep them like that for a day or two. So the matter came up before the court when the major industrial units and companies came before the High Court with a petition challenging this Ghirao thing. I remember on one side, the government was being led by the Advocate General, leading Mr. Somnath Chatterjee, I remember, and Mr. Somen Bose, another very senior advocate in Calcutta. And on the other side were all the stalwarts appearing for different companies. Now, I was then 3 or so 4 years junior, standing in the court and listening to the argument and trying to absorb avidly whatever was being submitted. Mr. Ashok Sen flew in one of those days and made his submissions and went away. I will never forget the experience that I had on that day. That day he stood there, didn't have a scrap of paper in front of him, and he expounded the law with regard to illegal confinement, the law of illegal confinement, with reference to the law of tort. I had come back from England a couple or 3 years earlier. And when I heard Mr. Ashok Sen leading this particular array of lawyers and making submission on Allen and Flood, Rylance and Fletcher, Rooks and Bernard, Crofter Harris Street case, and he was just rattling off, quoting chapter and verse from each of these judgments. I was absolutely astounded. A man with that amount of memory, that kind of absorption of the matters, it was absolutely an eye-opener, and in fact, it was a revelation for me. That was the first encounter that I had with Ashok Sen. Second time when I met him, in the meantime, of course, there had been very many matters in which I had been appearing as second or third junior in the matters. But I remember there was a settling of a plaint. The plaint was on admiralty suit. What happened was this: a ship was to be arrested which had come and sailed into Calcutta port. The admiralty suit is to be filed, non-payment of dues or something, I faintly recollect, it's about 30, 40 years back. I was asked to have it settled by Ashok Sen in Delhi. So I flew to Delhi. I drafted the plaint and went before him. I thought I did a good job. I looked into Atkins' precedents, Butterworth's precedents, Moga, then came Ghosh's pleadings and all that. I assembled all those and drafted my plaint. I went over there. He was in the middle of a conference. He said, Jayanto, wait. You wait in the waiting room. I shall take it up after everything is finished. We sat at around 9 o'clock. He took my plaint and he went on correcting with a red pen. And as he was going on, he went on saying, Bah, besh likhecho. Meaning thereby, oh, well done, well written. And he went on correcting with his red pen. By the time the thing was over at 10 o'clock, I found that no black ink was here, everything red. He has completely changed the plaint. But the point I wanted to see, there's no rancor. Not one abusive word was used. That is a worthless piece of drafting. He never said that. It was a worthless piece of drafting, but he never said that. All the time he went on saying, correcting, besh likhecho. This is my second experience. I knew as to how that senior should treat the juniors. Treat them well. Be sympathetic to this cause. Don't expect that the juniors would know everything when they join the profession. Teach them, make them learn. I kept that particular plaint corrected by him for a long period because I thought that was an ideal piece of drafting that I had in my possession. Abhishek had been speaking about his phenomenal memory and his learning and knowledge. I give you just one simple example what happened. There was an invitation. A solicitor's son was getting married in Calcutta. Now, in the matter of, we call it Bhoj, Ashok Sen is never, you won't be able to keep him back. He will be there. He flew down from Delhi to attend that. I heard this story from no less a person than Somnath Chatterjee. The Somnath Chatterjee and Mr. Ashok Sen, politically, they had been very serious rivals. Now, what happened with that day was they met in that particular invitation. Somnath Da, he told me this story, I heard it from him. He had a matter being taken up before the division bench in which he was asked a question he could not answer to the judge. And there was no answer. He thought that there is no answer. So he just obtained an adjournment for the day so that next day he will come back and argue the matter. So he found Ashok Sen. So in course of, Ashok Sen, in the usual way, Ki Somnath, Kolkata High Court er khobor ki hocche. Then Mr. Chatterjee thought this was an opening for him. He said, Sir, I have got a problem. This is the point which had arisen. I am not being able to find any answer. At that time, Ashok Sen had left the profession for 6 or 7 years. He was in the parliament, he was in the cabinet. He said that, Somnath, this is a difficult point. I don't know whether there is an answer to this. But I remember there is one case, that is 1934. This is what I heard from Somnath Chatterjee himself. There is one case, 1934, King's Bench. I don't remember, it may be 34, 35. But you can try. Somnath thought that this Ashok Sen had pulled a fast one. So anyway, he had his dinner, went back home, and skeptically, he asked his bearer, bring down 1934 King's Bench, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And he said, lo and behold, pat on the point, the judgment was there. When he said this, he was completely emotional. He said, Jayanto, that day, I just sat there for 15 minutes. I could not work anymore. I said, what kind of a man is he? A man who has got the memory of an elephant, who could remember these things so many years after he has left the profession. That is Ashok Sen. You know, when I say all these things, I just think of those glorious days when people like him had been walking along the corridors of the Supreme Court and the High Court. You have heard from Mr. Manu Abhishek Singhvi, his achievements in different cases. I am not going to narrate those. But what I am on is this, that when you think of a man like this, a person with phenomenal memory. I tell you another instance. There was an arbitration before Justice Chandrachud, Chief Justice Chandrachud. After his retirement, he was the arbitrator, and I was appearing before him. Mr. Banavati was on the other side. I had no case, absolutely no case. So the client said, sir, you take any senior you like and try and see if it can be done. Something can be done about it. We were the claimant. So I said that the only person I can think of is Ashok Sen. Brief him. He was in Delhi. I went down to Delhi. The first conference, he said, Jayanto, I have gone through the brief. Your client doesn't have any case. This is something which is unthinkable coming from Ashok Sen. So really the case had nothing. It was, I remember also it is regarding the Jute and Hessian exchange, Jute and Hessian dealings in this. ACC, Associated Cement Company of Bombay, of which Mr. Palkiwala was the chairman, was the respondent, and my client was the claimant. The claim was about 25 crores. Absolutely baseless claim. So anyway, the meeting took place in Bombay, in the Oberoi. Justice Chandrachud came. The first day, when I said, Justice Chandrachud said, Mr. Mitra, I think you should advise your client to settle the matter. I have gone through the papers. He didn't say that you don't have any case. Gentleman as he was. He said, you try and settle the matter. I'm adjourning the matter for a fortnight. So the client said that brief anybody you like. I went to Ashok Sen, and Ashok Sen was briefed on the next day. So next day when I went there, Banavati saw Ashok Sen and said, Jayanto, this is very wrong. You shouldn't have brought a senior like this. So I said, you saw that I don't have any case at all. So something has to be done with it. Ashok Sen sat there. He opened his case. And for 2.5 hours, from 11 to 1:30, up to lunchtime, he just didn't open the brief. He went on explaining the rules. The Jute and Hessian Exchange regulation, that was about 50 pages booklet. He went on explaining the various provisions, and he tried to fit in with the case that we had. At the end of, just before lunch, Justice Chandrachud could not restrain himself. He said, Ashok, how do you know all this? Without batting an eyelid, without any bragging in his voice, in a matter of fact, just he made a statement, said, my lord, this has been drafted by me. The whole rule, regulation has been drafted by him. And I tell you what, this is what Ashok Sen is. He never used to leave it with the officers or the clerks. He used to draft it himself, and he used to draft it, not only draft it, correct the drafts before a particular legislation went to the parliament for being finally passed. Lastly, I would say only one thing I just tell you before I think I've taken enough time, and with the permission of Justice Vikram Nath. This is with regard to, you know about Shahbanu's case? Shahbanu's case, that was in the year 1980s, the early 1980s. In Shahbanu's case, the lady, Shahbanu, applied to the court, to the magistrate, I'm just giving you the background, under section 125 of the Criminal Procedure Code, asking for maintenance from her husband, who had pronounced triple talaq and had divorced her. She was a wife of 40 years. She was in absolute indigent condition, could not make her two ends meet. So she went to court. The magistrate granted him under section 125, granted him a 25 rupees per month. This was enhanced by the High Court of Madhya Pradesh to 170 rupees. The husband went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, as you know, in that historic judgment delivered in 1985, said that insofar as the maintenance is concerned, it cannot be confined to only the period of iddat. Iddat period is 3 months of the lunar cycle after the divorce takes place. The husband said, beyond 3 months, I am not obliged to pay. The Supreme Court said, no, you are obliged to pay. It is not confined to Muslim law, does not say contrary to section 125, and therefore you will have to pay this amount of money. As you know, this particular judgment created a lot of agitation all over India. Particularly the Muslim clerics, they created a tremendous amount of agitation, saying that the court has interfered with the Muslim personal law, which is not permissible. Therefore, they went on making agitation in the corridors of the parliament, saying that this particular judgment should be nullified and a law should be passed. Unfortunately, I think Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister then. He succumbed to this pressure. And a law was passed, a bill was introduced and a law was passed, which is Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Divorce Act 1986. Now this bill was to be drafted. Who is to draft it? Rajiv Gandhi invited personally. Personally, he asked Ashok Sen to draft this particular bill. He said that this is, too touchy a subject. Therefore, you should personally see that this All India, this Muslim conference, and the others are not disappointed. You do that. So this particular act was brought into existence, And the Act contained, and this is the most important thing, I think particularly the junior members who are present here, they should also try and follow this. The Act contained a provision under Section 3, subsection 1. What is that provision? This is the provision which was passed as an Act. Notwithstanding anything contained in any other law for the time being in force, a divorced woman shall be entitled to, inter alia, a reasonable and fair provision to be made and paid to her, and note the words, within the iddat period by the former husband. This particular act was passed for the purpose of satisfying the dissident Muslim clerics. Now, there is a sting in the tail. This act was passed, and in fact, in the parliament, when this controversy was going on, the most trenchant view was taken in support of Shah Banu's case against this proposed amendment was by Arif Muhammad Khan. He sat with Ashok Sen also in the matter of drafting this, and he has a legal background. And after this was drafted, he pointed out to Ashok Sen that, look, you have said to be made and paid to her within the iddat period. Are the Muslim clerics agreeable to that? Ashok Sen said, yes, they are agreeable. Now, this act so framed and its provisions were so formulated that instead of confining the husband's liability during the iddat period, which they had been clamoring for, the magistrate was empowered by this act to make a reasonable provision and maintenance for a divorced Muslim woman to be fixed and paid within the iddat period. So you see the difference. Instead of paying her during the iddat period, it was to be paid within the iddat period. In a subsequent judgment, which was also, I think it was, when this act was challenged, I think Mr. Manu Abhishek Singhvi appeared in that, in the case of Daniel Latif. Yeah, he appeared in that. In fact, and his submissions have been recorded in details. There, when this act was challenged on the ground that it did not meet with the requirements of the law, the Supreme Court said that this was in perfect harmony with Section 125 of the Criminal Procedure Code and ensured that the husband is required to contemplate the future needs of the divorced wife in advance. That is, within the iddat period, within 3 months you must do it, and make preparatory arrangements for meeting those liabilities, those needs. Now, this is what Ashok Sen is. Afterwards, long after this, I had a chat with, I was for a conference in his chamber. I just casually asked him. I said that this is what has happened. There was this twist in the language. So what was asked for during the iddat period, you said within the iddat period. Why did you do this? Then he said this, and I distinctly remember this. He said, and he said that without any bragging, very casually he said, how could I have overlooked the right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution and also Article 39A of the Constitution, by which the state has been directed to frame its policy for securing all its citizens, men and women equally, the right to an adequate means of livelihood. He said that without any rancor, without any pride, without bragging. As a matter of fact, he made that statement. Now, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I sat there and I thought, what kind of a man is he? He had drafted people do not remember, people only remember as a great lawyer. But what they forget is that he was a great parliamentarian. He is a great legislator. He framed the law. He interpreted the law in court, and he framed the law as a parliamentarian. And when he framed the law, he all the time was guided by the holy principles of the Constitution of India. He never deviated from that. In fact, I just end my discourse. I think I have taken longer time than I thought I would. This was given to me by my grandson, and this was a Lajpat Rai Memorial Lecture in 1962 he delivered. Ashok Sen delivered. He was invited to be the speaker in that. And he delivered the lecture titled Justice for the Common Man. And this is what he said. This is the ultimate paragraph. He said, one sign is most heartening. The entire people of this country have risen from the long deep slumber, and are on the move. They are conscious of their rights and confident of their ability to realize them. No person on earth can stop them from moving forward and reaching their goal. The ultimate goal may yet be far away, but that cannot deter them marching forward to realize their cherished goal of equality, justice, and dharma. And then he concluded his lecture by saying, Charaibati, Charaibati, Charaibati. Move on, move on, move on. This is what was Ashok Sen. I have seen him. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mitra, for those very, very insightful and educative words. Now, we move on to the lecture that we've been waiting for. Honorable Mr. Justice Vikram Nath hails from the historic city of Prayagraj, formerly known as Allahabad, a city that has given the nation many stalwarts of law and learning. Born into a distinguished family of lawyers, law and justice run in his lineage. His grandfather, Babu Maheshwari Prasad, began his legal practice in the Sessions Court of Allahabad in 1900. Over nearly 6 decades, till his passing in 1959, he earned the reputation of being one of the foremost trial lawyers of his time. His eldest uncle, Babu Amarnath, was one of the leading civil lawyers at the district courts of Allahabad, practicing tirelessly until 1970. His father, Sri Devendra Nath, carried the legacy forward, beginning his practice in 1959 and serving as the district government counsel for the Board of Revenue for 25 years with integrity and dedication. Law is not merely a profession, it is a way of life, as Justice Nath's family legacy beautifully demonstrates. Justice Vikram Nath was born on 24th of September 1962. He completed his schooling from St. Joseph's College, Allahabad, earning his BSc from Allahabad University in 1983. Thereafter, he pursued legal education from Shia PG College, University of Lucknow, attaining his law degree in 1986, a beginning that later shaped into a remarkable judicial journey. Enrolled with the Bar Council of Uttar Pradesh on 30th March 1987, Justice Nath commenced his career in the district courts of Allahabad, handling revenue and civil matters with diligence and insight. On 1st January 1988, he shifted his practice to the Allahabad High Court, where his remarkable command over civil, constitution and revenue law earned him great respect. On his 42nd birthday, 27th September 2004, he was elevated to the bench of Allahabad High Court, a moment that beautifully reflected the cycle of milestones in his life. He later served as the senior judge of the Lucknow bench of the Allahabad High Court from July 2017 to February 2019, displaying leadership rooted in wisdom and empathy. On 10 September 2019, Justice Nath took oath as the Chief Justice of the Gujarat High Court. and his tenure was marked by innovation, accessibility, and foresight. He pioneered several digital initiatives, email filing, online mentioning, real-time case updates, and real-life systems, transforming the court into a truly digital institution. This initiative, inspired by the Supreme Court judgment in Swapnil Tripathi, began a pilot project under his stewardship and later extended to all benches of the Gujarat High Court during the unprecedented challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring uninterrupted access to justice. His leadership through uncertainty stands as a testament to adaptability and calm conviction. Justice Nath's contribution go far beyond the courtroom. A keen sportsman, he finds rhythm and resilience through games like badminton, table tennis, billiards, cricket, carom, chess, reflecting his belief that balance is the true strength of character. Known amongst colleagues and juniors for his optimism, humility, and warmth, Justice Nath leads by example. He inspires those around him not through authority, but through authenticity, engaging in ways that bring out the very best in others. Over the years, he has delivered numerous landmark judgments across diverse branches of law: civil, criminal, constitution, taxation, election, service, environment, the list goes on, enriching India's judicial landscape with depth and clarity. Elevated as the judge of the Supreme Court of India on 31st August 2021, Justice Nath continues his remarkable journey of service to the nation and the Constitution. As the saying goes, those who come from legacies don't rest on them, they build on them. Justice Vikram Nath exemplifies that legacy, combining tradition with transformation and learning with leadership. The lives of Mr. Ashok Kumar Sen and Honorable Mr. Justice Vikram Nath, though shaped in different eras, are united by the devotion to the Constitution and enduring promise of justice. Mr. Sen believed that law must rise above technicalities to become a living force that uplifts society. His public life, marked by intellect and empathy, reflected a deep conviction that governance and morality must walk hand in hand. Justice Vikram Nath carries forward that vision with quiet strength, blending tradition with transformation. His leadership in fostering transparency, digital innovation, inclusivity within the judiciary stands as a modern echo of Sen's belief that law must always serve humanity. Mr. Sen built institutions that gave voice to the vulnerable. Justice Nath humanizes the law through accessibility and reason. Together they remind us that Constitution is not just a document to be interpreted, but a spirit to be lived through fairness, courage, and the constant pursuit of what is right. With that, it is my honor now to invite Honorable Mr. Justice Vikram Nath to share his reflections of Mr. Ashok Kumar Sen on the enduring dialogue between law and public life, and on the timeless spirit and pursuit of justice that unites them all. Justice Vikram Nath.
A very warm good evening to everyone present here. My esteemed colleagues, Brother Justice Bakshi, Brother Justice Koteshwar Singh, Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, Justice Upadhyay, Honorable Judges of Delhi High Court and other High Courts, respected former judges of the Supreme Court and the High Court, Learned Attorney General, Mr. Ramani, the distinguished panelists, Justice Bakshi, I have already introduced, Dr. Singhvi, and Mr. Mitra, Mr. Vikas Singh, President, Supreme Court Bar Association, respected senior advocates, learned advocates, students, ladies and gentlemen. I am actually dumbfounded whether or not to deliver this memorial lecture, because after hearing all the interesting anecdotes and episodes and about the life of Mr. Sen, of which I have neither been associated, acquainted or known, like Mr. Bakshi, he is from Calcutta, Dr. Singhvi remembers back to his father's time with Mr. Sen, Mr. Joyinta Mitra also has so many roads. If they could have continued, I would have enjoyed more. But since I have been assigned this job of delivering the lecture, I think now the boring part starts. All of you will have to suffer me and listen to this lecture, which is a scripted one. I don't have anecdotes to narrate. If I could be excused, I would be very happy and request all the panelists to, continue with some more. And I would say that my lecture is delivered. Reasons to follow, and we can go ahead. If all of you agree, we can do that. But if you all want to suffer another 15-20 minutes, I will continue to read what I have prepared. What do you say? Very well. Your choice. Don't blame me later. I am grateful to be in such company, and I thank the organizers for inviting me to deliver the second Ashok Kumar Sen Memorial Lecture. We are here to remember a remarkable Indian. Ashok Kumar Sen was a lawyer, a parliamentarian, and a minister who gave many years of his life to public service. I did not know him personally, but anyone who has practiced law in India or worked within our courts and laws has felt his influence. Some people are known because they held high office. Others are remembered because they raised the standard of the work itself. Mr. Sen belonged to the second group. He was steady and calm. He believed in preparation, in clear language, and in the simple idea that law should help people live better and safer lives. Many of you know the broad outline of his career. He rose quickly at the bar, became one of the leading lawyers of the Calcutta High Court, and later served several times as the Union Law Minister. He entered public life alongside the first generation of national leaders, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Dr. Bidhan Chandra Roy, and V.K. Krishna Menon. And he served in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 8th Lok Sabhas. He won the confidence of voters again and again, and he also earned the trust of colleagues across parties because he was fair and clear. People often call him the inevitable law minister. By that, they mean he was the person you naturally turned to when the country needed someone sensible to steer legal reform, someone who could talk to courts, to parliament, to the government, and to citizens without raising the temperature. He combined a lawyer's eye for detail with a public servant's instinct to explain and include. His promise showed early. At the age of 26, he authored a book on commercial law. It was endorsed by his senior, Sri Sudhir Ranjan Das, who would later become Chief Justice of India. That endorsement and the reception the book received tell us something important. Even at that young age, his learning was not just wide, it was useful. He cared about law that worked in practice. That same spirit guided one important legal reform of the post-independence period, the Advocates Act 1961, piloted in Parliament by Ashok Kumar Sen, which closed a colonial chapter and opened a modern one. It swept away the old ranks of barristers, pleaders, and vakils and created a single class of advocates. It established state bar councils and the Bar Council of India, set common standards of training and ethics, and gave lawyers a national right to practice. In plain words, it made the profession more open, more mobile, and more merit-based. Talent, not title, would matter. That change did not just tidy up labels. It changed how young people could enter and grow in the law. It helped democratize opportunity. Mr. Sen's work was not confined to professional regulation. He believed in the larger task of building an equitable society through legal reform and through a culture of rights. In the challenging years of the 1970s and 1980s, when the country faced political strain and tough debates about civil liberties, he worked to keep the rule of law steady. He focused on strengthening institutions, improving access to justice, and protecting fundamental freedoms. He spoke for the independence and integrity of the judiciary and backed reforms that helped courts do their work without fear or favor. He supported measures that defended the rights of those at the margins, such as tribal communities, minorities, women, children, and other vulnerable groups. He invested in legal education and in legal aid because he believed the law serves people best when people can actually reach it. These were not abstract aims, they were practical steps that pushed the promise of the Constitution closer to everyday life. We sometimes speak of public life as a series of battles. Mr. Sen showed another way: practice, patience, clarity, and quiet persistence. Those qualities are not dramatic, but they are durable. They create trust, and trust is the true currency of law. During his long years in office and in Parliament, Mr. Sen kept returning to the same principle: make the text clear, keep the tone civil, build agreement where you can, hold firm where you must. He did not treat democracy as a background fact. He earned the support of voters, often in tough contests, and he returned that support by working seriously in office. That balance, public mandate on the one hand, careful legal work on the other, is rare. It gave him a special kind of legitimacy. He spoke for the citizens because they elected him. He spoke for the legal system because he knew it from within. That is why so many across the political spectrum were comfortable with him at the helm of legal affairs. He belonged to everyone, not to a camp. It is worth saying something simple here. Greatness in public life is not measured by tenure alone. It is measured by a certain consistency of purpose. Length of service counts, but what counts more is the direction of that service, the thread that runs through many years and many roles. In Mr. Sen's case, the thread is easy to see: make the law clearer, make the system calmer, and bring people together around practical answers. There is another thing to be said about people like him. Some of us wear one role at a time, and each role cancels the others. He was different. The teacher in him never left the lawyer. The lawyer never left the minister. The minister did not stop listening to parliament. The parliamentarian did not stop speaking to citizens. In simple terms, he kept his roles connected. That is what gives a life its authority. We may disagree, as free people will, about this or that policy, but when we sense integrity, when what a person knows, what he says, and what he does line up, we give that person a respect that lasts beyond the day-to-day storms of politics. This connected way of working shaped how he handled the craft of law itself. At the bar, his reputation rested on simple habits: know the facts well, be fair to the other side, and make the judges work easier, not harder. He cut through confusion and found the point that mattered. He did not treat the courtroom as a stage. He treated it as a place where problems must be solved. As law minister, he was a translator. He could take a technical idea from lawyers and explain it to lawmakers, and then take the concerns of lawmakers and make them workable for officials and for the public. He did that work again and again, especially when the issues were sensitive and the atmosphere was tense. He also understood that law is a chain, not a single link. Justice does not begin at the appellate court. It begins with the first complaint, the first conversation at a police station, the first hearing before a magistrate. It includes the way we draft government orders and contracts, the way we train our police and prosecutors, the way our tribal courts are run, and the way legal aid reaches people who cannot pay. If any link breaks, the citizens feels lost. Mr. Sen's approach strengthened the whole chain. We should view his record in context. These were decades when India's laws had to keep up with new social demands, new economic choices, and new constitutional questions. Many of today's issues, such as data and dignity, speech and responsibility on digital platforms, trade and fairness in a global economy, climate and development, were only beginning to take shape then. Yet, this method remains relevant. If we want good answers, we must keep the basics in view. Speak plainly, draft carefully, consult widely, give reasons, protect procedure, respect the limits of our roles while working closely with other institutions. These are simple ideas, but they are the backbone of a stable legal order. All of this leads naturally to a subject that was dear to him: the habit of reading. As I near the end of my lecture, a single image seems to hold Mr. Sen's spirit best: the library. In the legal profession, reading is often discussed in utilitarian terms. Read to win the case, read to master the brief, read to prepare the speech. Ashok Kumar Sen's example encourages a larger view. Reading is a public act. When a lawyer reads well, a judge reasons better. When a judge reasons better, a citizen lives better. When a lawmaker reads widely history, philosophy, economics, literature, then laws become wiser because they are rooted in a more generous understanding of human possibility. Here a line from Rabindranath Tagore helps us. I quote, "Don't limit a child to your own learning, for she was born in another time." Unquote. That thought speaks to a dynamic country. Every generation will test our institutions with its own questions about technology and privacy, about speech and equality, about faith and identity, about prosperity and the planet. If we limit the answers to yesterday's book, we will limit the country's tomorrow. The solution is not to abandon tradition, it is to deepen it. The deeper our roots in learning, the wider our branches in reform. Bengal's literary and intellectual tradition, of which Mr. Sen was an inheritor, understands this. It teaches us that reading keeps us humble because it reveals how much there is still to understand. It teaches us to argue without hatred and to revise without humiliation. A library is not a storehouse of the past. It is a workshop for the future. It keeps the machinery of justice and governance running. Many of us grew up in homes where a single shelf of books carried great weight. Mr. Sen built a much larger collection, full of rare volumes and careful notes, but the spirit is the same. A library, large or small, says that we will not guess when we can learn, and we will not shout when we can read. It says we will take the time to get things right. In a world that what rewards speed, a library teaches patience. In a world full of noise, it teaches attention. If we keep that spirit alive, in our law schools, our chambers, our courts, and yes, in our homes, we will honor his memory in the best possible way. Allow me to speak for a moment to the youngest people in this hall, the law students and new practitioners. The law can be demanding. It will keep you up at night. It will test your patience, and it will often test your courage. Do the simple things well. Read the papers carefully. Be on time. Treat everyone in the courtroom with respect, and keep your language straight. When you lose, learn why. When you win, thank the people who helped you. Find mentors who correct you. These small habits, repeated over years, become character. And character is what persuades courts and clients to trust you with difficult work. For judges too, there is a lesson in Mr. Sen's example. He dealt with disagreement without raising his voice. He was willing to hear every concern, but he did not let debate become delay. He believed that clarity is a form of respect to the House, to the courts, and to the public. We on the bench should hold ourselves to the same measure. Clear reasons, a steady tone, and decisions that ordinary people can read and follow. The Constitution speaks to everyone. Our judgments should do the same. Leadership in law is often judged by what is done on the biggest stage, but the law is built day by day on small, careful acts. There is dignity in small things: filing a brief punctually, treating a court officer with respect, giving credit to a junior, citing a precedent accurately, acknowledging an error promptly. These are the habits that make you trustworthy. In time, trust will give you influence, and influence will invite responsibility. When that day comes, remember the tradition we honor tonight. Use your influence to build institutions, not just reputations. Use your skill to sharpen justice, not just arguments. Use your learning to guide the next generation, not just to impress your own. If we keep these habits alive, we will also keep alive the wider spirit of the law, its humanity. Law is a set of rules, yes, but it is also a way of treating people. It is a promise that power will answer to reason, and that reason will be open to evidence. It is a promise that even when we act with speed, we will not forget fairness And even when we act with firmness, we will not forget compassion. Mr. Sen's contribution across many years was to make that promise feel real in the ordinary business of government and parliament. As we look ahead, we will face new questions that touch every part of the legal system: data protection and dignity, responsible speech in the digital sphere, markets that reward enterprise without losing fairness, environmental choices that balance growth with care for the planet, and new technologies, especially artificial intelligence, that will change how we work and live. None of these choices will be easy, but if we hold on to a steady habits and remember that the law exists to serve people, the path will be clearer. Before I close, let me thank our panel once again for setting the tone this evening. Your presence reminds us that the work of law is shared work. Bar, bench, parliament, universities, and the wider public each have a part. The best tributes to a person like Ashok Kumar Sen are not statutes or special sessions. They are daily choices to prepare a little better, to argue a little more fairly, to write a little more clearly, and to treat one another with dignity even when we disagree. Ashok Kumar Sen did not set out to be inevitable. He became so because people could rely on him. May we aim for the same standard in our own spheres. Let us keep our minds open, our words measured, and our actions steady. Let us read widely, teach generously, and guide those who follow us. If we can do that, then the spirit of this lecture will not end with tonight. It will continue in our files tomorrow morning, in our classrooms, in our courtrooms, and in the quiet places where we open a book to learn something new. Thank you very much.
I would now request Mr. Jitendra Mohan Sharma to come on stage and distribute the plaques.
The AK Sen Memorial Foundation has bought something for the guests. May I request Mr. Sanjay Vashisht, advocate, to give the memento to Justice Vikram Nath. May I request Mr. Aditya Vikram Sen to come on stage and give plaque to Justice Joy Malobakshi. May I request Prahlad Balaji to present a memento to Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi. May I request Mrs. Sonali Sen to present memento to Mr. Jayant Mitra. Though there are judges of Supreme Court are here, may I request Amrit Pradhan to present a bouquet and remembrance to Justice N. Koteshwar Singh for he being here. May I request Amrit? May I request Ms. Simran Gupta to present a memento to Justice D.K. Upadhyay, Chief Justice, Delhi High Court. So the closing ceremony will be done by Justice Sachin Datta. But may I request Akshat to present before, because after that there will be difficulty. Akshat to present a memento to Justice Sachin Datta. May I request Ms. Jharna Singh to present a bouquet to our Attorney General, Mr. R. Venkatramani. Sir. The whole program was envisaged and there was a brain behind it. May I request Shreyas to give a bouquet to Mr. Santan Krishnan, who is the spirit behind this and a convener of Santan Krishnan. Oh, as usual, he is always behind. Oh, he is a silent worker, but he is the spirit behind all these functions. Thank you so much, Santan. Now, may I request Justice Sachin Datta to give his closing remark? Justice Sachin Datta. Thank you.
Honorable Justice Vikram Nath, Justice Joy Malobakshi, Justice Koteshwar Singh, Justice D.K. Upadhyay, Chief Justice Delhi High Court, Mr. Venkatramani, the Attorney General for India, former judges of the Supreme Court, sitting and former judges of various high courts who are so graciously present here, Mr. Mitra, Senior Advocate and former Advocate General, State of West Bengal, Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Senior Advocate, Mr. Vikas Singh, President SCBA, Senior Advocates, members of the bar, students, ladies and gentlemen. So the audience may fear not, because my mandate is to be brief. So as we bring this year's A.K. Sen Memorial Lecture to a close, we honor not merely a distinguished lawyer, but a personality whose presence, as we have seen, continues to resonate long after his time. His persona was so larger than life and so magnetic that even decades after his passing, stories about him continue to be part of legal folklore. There were several facets to his personality. His legal mastery was, of course, unquestioned. As Mr. Mitra has described, those who observed him in court recall a style marked by quiet authority, meticulous preparation, and an instinctive ability to simplify the most complex legal issues. His arguments were never theatrical. They were persuasive because they were precise, rooted in principle, and communicated with unmatched clarity. But what makes him truly unforgettable was his warmth and graciousness and ability to touch the lives of anyone who interacted with him, even if fleetingly. He had a gift for putting people at ease, especially young lawyers stepping nervously into the profession. He spoke to them not as an exalted figure addressing juniors from a distance, but as a mentor who remembered what it meant to begin to struggle and to learn. There are, of course, the well-known stories and anecdotes. Dr. Singhvi has mentioned about his love for Singhara. But there are also legendary stories about his sweet tooth. Those who worked closely with him would recall how on many evenings, after a long day in court, he would ask his driver to take a slow round of Inner Circle in Connaught Place, sitting comfortably in the back seat, savoring a full brick of ice cream. Despite being at the pinnacle of the profession, he cherished such simple joys close to his heart. And then there were his gestures of extraordinary generosity. In one notable instance, it is told that he was appearing for a public sector undertaking in the Supreme Court in a very momentous matter, a batch of nearly 150 matters. And he was charging a fees which was very high. I mean, he was the topmost lawyer in the country, so his fees were one of the highest in the country. But in those days, his fees would have been about 11,000 rupees per hearing, which was a very handsome amount in those days. His instructing counsel, by contrast, was charging a much smaller amount, maybe about 500 or 750. but was charging it in each of the 150 matters. So this translated into a significant amount in those days. So controversy began to brew over this. So the matter, somebody filed a complaint in the ministry started looking at this. Eventually some senior officer contacted Mr. Sen and informed him about the situation, because by then somebody was planning to raise a question in Parliament about this. So Mr. Sen listened patiently and then said, I apologize for the conduct of my junior. He does not know the etiquette, and he also does not know his own worth. He should have charged at least 1/3 of my fee in each matter. He said, but you don't worry, I will now instruct him to rationalize his fees for future. So the officer requested him to let the existing arrangement continue. And very reluctantly, Mr. Sen agreed. And he never discussed this with the concerned briefing advocate, who only later came to know about what had transpired from the concerned officers. This was the vintage A.K. Sen, with this characteristic combination of fairness, humor, and perspective. This episode showed not only his loyalty to his juniors, but the tallness of his personality. And I suppose the seniors of today, particularly the superstars, can take cue from this. Yes. Yes. One thing which stands out about Mr. Sen was that despite reaching the pinnacle of the legal profession and having commanded the confidence of several prime ministers, parliamentarians, and eminent judicial personalities, he retained the affection of the yet-to-be-established juniors, office clerks, stenographers, young researchers, and court staff. Despite being in an exalted position, he was never out of reach. He continued to carry along with him with a wide cross-section of persons, including those at the lowest rung of the ladder in the legal profession. I dare say that in this respect, he was very similar to Justice Vikram Nath. It is therefore quite befitting that Justice Nath has delivered the A.K. Sen Memorial Lecture today. Gratitude to you, sir. And as we close today's lecture, may I request the audience to close this event by giving a standing ovation to Justice Vikram Nath and Justice Bakshi. Thank you. I might conclude by saying that the anecdotes I heard from my father, who was very closely associated with Mr. Sen.